Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, almost good night for some people, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you for joining us today. It's Florence Akpan here again from InfoPlace Canada, and I have with me Doyin from Settle Easy uh, to talk about settling in Canada as a newcomer. Just a little bit about Doyin before I let her start talking. Doyin is an immigrant like myself to Canada. She has been living in Canada for over 11 years, completed her undergraduate degree in Nigeria, completed a master's degree in the United Kingdom, and then she began her immigration journey to Canada. Of course, a long journey to get to where she is today, where she's a Canadian citizen herself. And based on her own personal experiences, she's used her personal experiences to set up this settlement agency that helps newcomers who are looking to come to Canada get settled in Canada. So today we're going to be chatting with Doyin and getting all the juicy tips and details about what it's like settling in Canada as a newcomer. So Doyin, thank you so much for joining me today. And the floor is yours. Tell us something that I missed about yourself.
Thank you for having me, Florence. No, you basically got it. You got it all. Yes, like you said, I'm an immigrant. Moved to Canada over 11 years ago. Looking for a better life like everybody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no, I moved. I already had my brother here, but I was in the UK, and I was like, oh, I need somewhere even more welcoming, and that's why I moved to Canada, and it has been great ever since. So thank you for having me.
Perfect. That's amazing. That's amazing. I think you alluded there that you had family already in Canada. And we're going to be talking about all of that because the dynamic sometimes is a little bit different if you have someone that is here to welcome you when you arrive versus
Yeah.
people who up and leave and have absolutely nobody here
Yeah.
who can welcome them. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. Doya and I have a couple of things that we're going to be talking about. This is going to be very conversational style. I want you all to jump into the conversation, leave comments from whatever platform you're listening on, and we will be able to pick those comments. As much as possible, we'll leave questions to the end. But if there are questions that relate to something that we're actively talking about, I will try to bring that in so that we can address that for you. It's going to be a very informative session. So if you have friends, family, anyone that is looking to relocate, get them in here. Share the link to this session, and let them join us in here as well. So before we start today, I think I want to set the stage here, because a lot of times like the whole move and craze of like immigrating, moving to a new country, like in I think in the last couple of years here, it's even gotten crazier than it used to be. There's so much movement across the world. Like people are moving from Africa to Europe, from Europe to North America to South America. There's so much movement happening. But in that are also lots of interesting and sometimes very crazy stories that people have when they move. For you, as a settlement agent that helps newcomers settle in, what would be the craziest story of settlement that you have received or heard, be it from your clients or people that you have served?
I think I've heard a lot, right? Especially from, like you said, my clients that are moving. But I think one of the most profound ones to me was like people looking for jobs before they get to Canada.
Hmm.
Obviously, like I always tell people, yeah, you can start looking for jobs when you get before you even arrive, but you have to be very, very careful when also looking for jobs as well. So one story that one of my clients told me was like before she moved here, she was excited obviously as a PR.
Mm.
She had gotten her PR, and her and her family were going to move in a couple of months. So obviously the right thing to do obviously is to start looking for a job, and which is what she did. And unfortunately for her, she fell into the hands of a wrong, not even wrong agent, an agent that wasn't, authorized. Was
Hmm.
so she this the agent even collected money from her and promised her like full time job, a $75,000 a year salary, signing bonus,
Oh, wow.
moving expenses. like so relocation expenses and everything. So obviously, she was excited. Like she has heard stories of people that moving to Canada and getting like menial jobs and everything, but this was her getting like a 75
75,000.
grand job right off the bat. So she was excited, moved here, and called the agency. Agency did not exist. The number did not exist. Yeah, the location where they said they were located did not exist. So basically, she was a victim of job job
Scam.
scam, which
Mm-hmm.
is which a lot of people actually experience. But this one, like I had heard of it, but seeing somebody that actually went through it was mind blowing. So yes, that was one story that I was like, wow, these things really happen. So just be careful while you're looking for jobs before you move to Canada.
Oh wow, that's very interesting, and it's always because I think just that story is is very interesting too, just because this person was already even a permanent resident who
Hmm.
has the key to come in here and get any job that she wants and things like that. And I usually tell people if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, because
Exactly.
I'm sure she felt something in her like this might not be true and all of that. Is one thing to know that,
Hmm.
oh yeah, just tell me a job is waiting, but to go ahead and make payments and really expect that this would happen is quite shocking. But that again, that doesn't mean that people don't get jobs before they come. We're going to definitely talk about that later on today. But thank you very much for sharing that. That kind of sets the tone to all of this because it is a very, very important thing. And if you want the first your life in Canada to start off on a good foot, there's certain things you need to do
Hmm.
prior to coming and once you arrive to set the pace for you. There's a lot of culture shock that you'll go through, and these are the things that we're going to be going through today. So before we continue, I just want to make sure that everyone who is online right now can hear us. So if you can hear us, please just leave in the comment section where you're joining us from, and just give us a thumbs up if you're hearing everything and you're seeing us properly. So just leave comments for us. We just want to make sure that everyone is in and hearing and seeing what we're doing. So please leave those comments and we'll keep going. So Joey, I've received my visa. I'm very excited. I am so happy that finally my dreams to relocate is finally happening.
Whoop whoop whoop.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm coming. What is the first thing that you advise that person to do before they even leave their country? Are there things that they can start doing generally before they can even leave their country?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of things you can start doing. Obviously, the first things that people struggle with is accommodation, right? So you can
Mhm.
start looking at accommodation where you're going. There are different sites that you can and look for agencies that you can find. Kijiji is a good one. A lot of places have Broadwalk. That's another good one. There's
Yeah.
Avenue Living. There are so many places. So look for accommodation first of all, and also the neighborhood is also very important, right? So
Hmm.
make sure you're doing your research on the neighborhoods. Being in the right neighbor, being in Canada doesn't mean that there are no bad neighborhoods. There are definitely not bad neighborhoods, but less desirable neighborhoods. So make sure
Yes.
you're looking at neighborhoods. So do your research. Another thing is prep your resume, right? Prep your resume before you come to the Canadian style. Also, what's like how much are you bringing to Canada? Make sure you're doing your research on how much you can bring to Canada. Also, with area that you live in, transportation, are you going to have a car before you come? Are you going to take the bus and things like that? So those are the kind of things that you can start looking at before you come. Also, like I said, jobs as well. Start looking for those jobs that that are in your field that you're looking for. So those are the kind of things that you can already start prepping before you come, and
Hmm.
also get your documents together. All those documents that you use to apply for your PR, bring all of them. Also, if you have kids, bring their transcripts, bring their medical record, bring everything, because when you're moving to a completely new place, all those things are very important to be able to transition smoothly. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's good. So a lot of things that you have to do in preparing. So Dorian has kind of touched on a lot right there in that short spell. But one thing that I would add is don't burn bridges,
Yes. Yes.
because especially if you're going to be looking for jobs when you get to Canada, ensure that you're leaving your office, you're leaving your colleagues on a good note, on a good term, because Canadians will call those international references. They will
Yes.
call them. It's not because those references are international, then they are not going to call, but they will call those references. So when you're leaving that country, you want to make sure that you're not burning bridges. You want to make sure you're living on a good note, because you might need those people that you're leaving behind for one thing or the other when you get to Canada. So of course, start gathering and coming with all of your documents and things like that.
That's a good one. Yes, they will call your references. Trust me.
Yes,
Especially when you're brand new to Canada, you've never worked in Canada before, so they can't cover any body here. So they will call that international
those
reference.
international references.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. We have so many people joining from Nigeria, from Swaziland. We have Canada. We have England. Thank you so much for joining. It is very nice to have you on with us today. So let's talk a little bit about housing. You kind of mentioned it. You can start looking for housing and all of that. What can people typically expect to see with the types of housing that are available in Canada? Like what are they looking for? How do they determine what is a reasonable rent, right? And then is it possible to actually find housing before you get to Canada? And if the answer is yes, what can you do about that? How can you go about that?
Yeah, good question. So yes, you can start looking for housing before you get here. Let me just start with that. And but it's typically difficult because they're going to be asking for different things, right? They're going to be asking for they're going to be asking for things like proof of statement. For example, they're going to be looking for payroll information from here in Canada. So those are the kind of things that they'll be looking for, which is so there are some places that will take it. They'll actually tell you that you should deposit, that you should pay 6 months rent upfront. I've heard of it.
Yes.
In some other provinces.
Mm-hmm.
I'm based in Saskatchewan, so I'm talking about Saskatchewan. They don't typically do that, but I've heard in other provinces that they'll take 6 months
Yes.
rent
Yeah.
upfront. But yeah, but another thing you have to also look at is your family size, right? So for a family of, I'll use a family of four as the benchmark here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for accommodation, obviously you can start with like a 2 bedroom if you want. And there are different types. There's like apartment style, there's townhouse style. So basically it's not standalone. You're basically sharing a wall with another house.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different types of accommodation. Typically, like I said again, I'm talking based on Saskatchewan, but when you're looking for like a 1 bedroom, you're looking at, also depending on the neighborhood, you're looking anywhere between 800 to 1400, because of the spike in interest rates right now.
Interest
People are
rates.
not people are not buying houses, they are renting right now.
Yeah.
So they've spiked up the cost of rental right now. So you're looking, like I said, you're looking for at 800 to 1200 for a 1 bedroom. 2 bedroom typically is like a 900 to about 1600. Like I said again, depending on the neighborhood, depending on when the apartment or the house was built, so it varies. For three bedroom, you're looking about 1100 to about almost like 2000, again depending
Mm-hmm.
on where you want. Also, yeah, so like the neighborhood, and most accommodations, they come unfurnished. That's something that
Yes.
people always get shocked about.
Talked about, yeah.
Right? How come the accommodation is so expensive and there's no furniture? Yeah, there's no furniture, like it's unfurnished. Utilities, some of the utilities are paid. That's another thing that people get shocked about. Not
Mm-hmm.
all utilities are paid. Typically, the accommodation, they'll pay for power
Mm-hmm.
and water, and then you have to, sorry, not power and water, they'll pay for water and energy, and you have to pay for power yourself,
Yeah.
right? And there are some places you have to pay for all the utilities
All the
yourself. So you
utilities.
have to make sure you're budgeting for all that
Okay.
as well. It's one thing to get the accommodation, is everything else that comes with it is also very important to note as well.
No, that's very good. That's very good. Thank you for that. So,
Mm.
key takeaways from there. There are certain things that landlords would want in order to rent from you, especially if you're coming from internationally as well. If you don't have an agent, a settlement agency like Settle Easy to help you sort your accommodation out, and you're doing this yourself, what I usually advise my clients to do is come book an Airbnb in the city that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to, and then when you arrive, you can complete your search for a place yourself.
Yeah.
because sometimes if you don't have someone looking for you, ensuring that it is the right neighborhood, and we're eventually going to be talking about kids and school as well. If you don't get all those things sorted out, you might end up really going through a lot of stress when you settle. So sometimes it's best to come simple, just arrive, get an Airbnb, and then of course, or even a hotel, whichever one fits your budget most, and
Mm-hmm.
then eventually go into finding your place that
Yeah.
you would like to stay in.
Yeah, I think I'll add one more thing as well. Like when you're looking for accommodation yourself, because you're not here, it's very difficult to know the kind of neighborhood. Because guess what? The pictures you are seeing, like they are professional people taking those pictures, right?
Sometimes,
So
yeah,
if you don't have somebody on ground, like a friend or a settlement agency like
family
us,
member,
actually
yeah,
going there to look at this accommodation for you, you might get disappointed by the time you come here and you see that, oh, what I saw in pictures is not the reality. So also be also very careful about that. Make sure you're looking at when you're looking at that, make sure if you have somebody here, they actually go and view the place for you. But if you can't view it yourself, another thing you can do is you can ask the agency to do a virtual tour
viewing.
of the bill viewing for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And thank God for Google Earth. You could actually view your streets from wherever you
Yes.
get the street address, look at the house. It would really help and save you a lot from scams because there are
Mhm.
scammers online, even with
Mhm.
rental. There
Oh
may
yeah.
be a place that has been given to you and the address doesn't really exist, but
Yeah.
Google, using your Google Earth and all of that to look would really, really help you and give you things that you can do. So thank you so much,
Exactly.
Joey, for that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So, and the reason why we started talking about housing first is because it's very important. It's going to spiral. Every other thing you're going to do after this is going to be tied to your address.
Mhm.
So, it's so, so important to find that place that you want to live in and where you want to stay.
Yeah.
Now, in your experience, after getting accommodation, what is typically the next thing that you want newcomers to work actively into doing after they found a place?
So is this like once you've arrived
Yeah, once
in
they've
the first?
arrived, after they've
Okay.
arrived, let's say housing is sorted out, they're doing Airbnb or what have you. What's the next thing
Mm.
when your clients arrive? What are you doing with them next after housing
Well,
has been sorted
yeah.
out?
So what I do next is phone line. Believe it or not, because a lot of people when they come, yes, you can use WhatsApp, but when you're dealing when you've already applied for those jobs from back home and then you come here, obviously you can't use your international number to call, or you want to call people within Canada, and so the best thing to do is, so for me the next thing is phone line.
Hmm.
To get a phone line, I usually typically advise my clients to get a prepaid phone line,
Hmm.
because you can use your phone. You can use the phone that you have right now, and it's SIM only, right? And typically, the cost is usually anywhere between, like depending on your budget, anywhere between like $30 to $60, depending on the data that you want, the amount of data that you want, the
Hmm.
calling minutes that you want. If you
Hmm.
want, believe it or not, you pay for voicemail. You pay for using voicemail, the
Hmm.
voicemail service and things like that. And 911, I think they charge for that as well. So phone line is usually typically the next thing that I always get my clients to do, or and that's something that a newcomer to Canada should be thinking of. After your phone line, the next thing is your bank account, because you're coming, you're bringing all that money with you. You don't want to be you don't want to be carrying the money everywhere. So the next step is opening a bank account. Typically, your bank will ask for you for your immigration documents, your passport, your address in Canada. So that's why Florence said that getting the accommodation is important,
Yeah.
and also
And your
believe
phone
it or
number.
and your phone number, exactly, and your phone number and email address. And Canada is different in the sense that, well, it's different from where I come from in the sense that I can't just walk into the bank and say I want to open a bank account. No, I have to book an appointment before I can open a bank account. So book that appointment, and that's something actually you can even do before you arrive. To
Yes.
that You can actually go online and book an appointment before you arrive, and you can always reschedule as well, which is fine. And they'll tell you like your appointment date, the location, all the documents to bring and stuff. And one very important thing as a new immigrant, open a bank account, make sure you're asking for the newcomer offers, because they do
Hmm.
have newcomer offers. So typically in Canada for bank accounts, depending on how you use your bank accounts, they can charge you anywhere from $3 to $16 for every month for transactions that you use when you use
Hmm.
transactions, right? So that newcomer offer is very important because you get 1 year free. So that's something that typically that people don't know as well. And when you open a bank account, I always suggest open a checkings account, savings account, and getting that credit card. Because guess what? You need credit for a lot of things, right? When you to build your credit, you need that credit card to start building. And then after that bank, you've settled with the bank, then it's in get your social insurance number, because that's to work you need your social insurance number.
Exactly.
So get to Service Canada, you can either walk into Service Canada where you're located, the province you're
Hmm.
located, or you can actually do it online as well. So those are the first things that I always suggest. Also childcare if you have kids,
Hmm.
right? Childcare is another thing that you can look into as well before you arrive.
Perfect. No, that's good. Really, really good thing. So get your phone line, open your bank account, and all of that before you arrive. Very important because every
Hmm.
other thing you're going to do, again, as we build onto this, it just builds onto each other. With the phone lines, you could use the phone that you have. And then just get the SIM and all of that here. The phone lines here and services are very different. So ensure that when you go to purchase, you're really understanding the terms and conditions that
Hmm.
are there with your phone line. I would add at that point with your housing, one thing that I'll just circle back to is internet. It doesn't automatically exist.
Yes,
So
yeah.
when you're getting your accommodation and all of that, ensure that you're getting internet set up as well for you, because then when you get your phone, hopefully you're given a couple megabytes of data. Then you can also use your Wi-Fi at home and things like that to save you on a lot of things. Now, there's something that most people who are coming in, the popular thing, if when you talk about settlements, whatever, how can I get my sin? How can I get my sin? What's sin? And why is it so important?
It's very important. How will you walk now? So your sin is tied to a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
Like before you can work in Canada,
You need your
your
social.
employer is going to ask you for your sin number, right? So
Mhm.
that's very, very important when you're looking for a job. So it's tied to a lot of things, like even your bank account. Even though you can open a bank account without a
Without
sin,
sin.
eventually you have to add it to your information on file, right?
Yeah,
You want to buy a house later on. Yes, or like all those kind of things. That's how they run your credit. When they run your credit, they'll usually ask you for your SIN
for your
number
sin number.
right, or your name. So the SIN number is very important because it's basically your lifeline in Canada. That's everything. Everything about you is tied to that SIN. It is unique to you, and it's important that you have to get it if you want to work and do other things in Canada.
Yeah. And SIN is social insurance number.
Yeah,
So
social
SIN is
insurance number.
social insurance number. And where can one get their social insurance number when they arrive in Canada?
Yeah.
And
So
how easy is it to get it? Processing time and all of that.
it's pretty easy. So you walk into again, depending on your location, service you have to go to Service Canada in your area, and
Hmm.
you can walk in, but because of the amount of immigrants coming right now, expect to stand in line for between 30 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And obviously the bigger the city, the more wait time, right? So
Hmm.
prepare for that. And like I said, you can also do that online. But the only thing is that for online, you won't get your SIN number right away. If you walk in, you get your SIN number right away. That's the difference between doing it online and walking in person.
Oh, I see. That's very, very good to know because I was going to ask about what the difference is with doing it online versus walking in and things like that. So that's really good to know. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And then the once of course you have your SIN number, you are ready to go at it. Now, before we go into the next thing, let's talk a little bit about settlement when it comes to coming with children, finding them school, finding them childcare. What has your experience been in that?
Um, with childcare.
Yeah.
So childcare here is, man, it's so, like I'll start with daycare, for example. Depending on the age of your kids, right? Daycare kids, also daycare here, school basically starts from 6 years old. That's when you go to grade one. So
Hmm.
when you're coming in, depending on the age of your kid, daycare is very scarce right now. In fact, the government is giving grants for people to open daycare. That's how bad it is right now. So make sure when you're moving in, like moving to Canada, daycare, you're googling like daycares in the area, and there are different types of daycare, right? There's the licensed and the unlicensed daycare. For the licensed daycare, you're looking at, yeah, is regulated, right? Is regulated and
Mhm.
monitored by the early years branch of the Ministry of Education. So that's one thing that is different from an unlicensed daycare. Also, you can be audited at any time. So they can audit you at any time. And the staff there, they have their early childhood certificate. So that's, and also they go through like the criminal record check. So that's the difference between a licensed and unlicensed daycare.
License daycare.
So the way you can get those is go to your Ministry of Education's website and search for daycares
License daycare.
in your area, licensed daycares. Usually they're either in like centers or in people's homes. So it doesn't being in somebody's home doesn't mean that it's not licensed. But also, if you want a license daycare, make sure you're asking those questions if it's in a home. But usually, if they're in centers, most of the time they are licensed. So
Hmm.
daycare, people go to daycare from whatever 6 months
Hmm.
to about 5 years old. Even though your kid is in kindergarten at
Kindergarten at
5,
5. Yeah.
school is not every day. Is does is every other day, and is only for, I think it's about for like 3-4 hours. So
Yeah.
you also have to look into like before and after
Option
school as
daycare.
well for kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah, for kindergarten, and
Hmm.
then going into kids that are older, so from grade 1 all the way to grade 12. Same thing. Go on the Ministry of Education's website in your province and look for schools in that area. One thing that you have to notice, because you're an immigrant, again, I'll get back. I'll be talking from Saskatchewan. There's a company called Open Door Society. So if you're a new immigrant, they basically take the burden of registering your kids to
School.
in school. So they take all that in, like, because schools are different and they only deal with like public schools, right? Because public schools here are free. So they want they place your kids in like the public schools in the area. Again, depending on your location, that's why
Yeah.
your address is very important
Yeah.
as well. We also have private schools, but basically those ones you have to research on your own if you want to if you want your kids to go to private schools, and you have to pay for that. So those are the kind of things that you have to look into when you're moving to Canada
Yeah.
for your kid.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for that, Doing. Because with coming with children, it's a little bit of a different ball game. You have to, depending on their age, you have to think about childcare. You have to. Oh, I think something happened there, but she'll be back. You be depending on the age, you have to think about childcare. You have to also think about um the school that they'll be going to. So it's very, very important to ensure that you are picking an area. So when you're looking for where to live as well, you could also look into schools that you want to go to. The public school system has like your regular public school and then your Catholic school. So for the religious ones that you're looking to go to, like a Christian school, there's the Catholic school. And then with also there's the private school system for other religions as well that may have their own schools, or just plain private schools out there that you could register your children to. Generally, the standard of education is top notch here in Canada. So, depending on your preferences and all the other extra things that these different types of schools offer, then you could choose which one you want to go with. But just so you know, most of the times it is based on most of the times is always based on where you're living. The place you find rent is you're going to be schooling in the school that is in that neighborhood that you're in. So it's very important to pick the right neighborhood that will
Mhm.
suit your kids when you are making that decision to come. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Ministry of Education basically has everything that has to do with education, obviously. So make sure
Mhm.
you're looking at the Ministry of Education's website in the province you're going, because all the information you need is right there.
It's right there. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So now you've got, and it's very important to get, if you're coming with children and you're thinking about working, don't even start looking for a job until you've figured out childcare.
Yes,
Because
yes.
depending on, especially if you're coming as a student and you want to work part-time and you're coming with children, you need to get your children's childcare sorted out first,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
here children can stay on their own until they're about 13 years. So everything about you, what you're doing and all of that will be tied around those children. You're going to have to go out with them, you're going to have to take them to places. So finding that, getting that childcare sorted out and getting your kids in school, knowing what their schedule would be, all of
Yeah.
that has to come first
Mm-hmm.
before you start looking for work. Because if you find a job and then you don't really have that, then that's a different ball. I mean, you could do it simultaneously, but your final decision is going to come when those kids are really sorted
Yeah,
out.
that'd be very difficult.
Yeah, and then you now can tell what time you have to find a job. So most people, when they arrive, they have their house, they have their internet, they have the bank account, everything, be it a student or even someone who is coming as PR. A lot of people are looking into finding some work, because in going through this process, you realize that for every breath you take, you are paying. There's money. Money is coming out of your pocket, and you're like, when can I start making some Canadian dollars? What can newcomers do to facilitate their ability to find jobs when they arrive in Canada?
Uh, okay, so I think I said it earlier, but start searching for like agencies that if you're looking before you even come, you can start looking for jobs. And another thing I want to point out is you can that job that you're doing in your home country, you can do it here. Like that professional job that you've been doing, you can do it. Gone are the days where you have to come and do menial jobs and things like that. You can definitely get that job that you're looking for. I'll give you an example. I had a client that I settled this year, and basically in 3 weeks she got a consultant role with a 90 something $1,000 job right off the bat, like in three
Wow.
weeks. So it is possible. It is possible. Start looking for those jobs before you get here. There are so many job banks. There's like the provincial one, like for example in Saskatchewan, there's one we call Saks Jobs. So you can look at jobs there. I also suggest Indeed. Indeed is also a good one that you can get good jobs. Glassdoor, and the most important one is also LinkedIn. Believe it or not, LinkedIn is like so important, because now like your resume, they can see your resume right there and then. So make sure you update your resume on LinkedIn as well, and your profile, because guess what? When you apply for jobs, that those companies will go to your LinkedIn and check your profile and see if you're best fit for that role. So you can definitely get those jobs and that interview, because everything is now most things are now virtual. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually start looking for those jobs or even getting that job before you even get here. So like I said, your provincial job bank is one. Your Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. There's so many of them. So just search for job agencies in the province that you're going to, and you get a lot that come
Very
out.
good. That's awesome. And I think the thing that I would add there too is the different countries have different resume styles and cover
Yes.
letter styles. So ensure that your resume and cover letter is to the Canadian style and standard, because you don't want to stick out.
Mm-hmm.
Once your resume comes, they're like, oh yeah, this is just an immigrant. This one just arrived, you know. So you want to blend in. You want to fit into the norm on what the Canadian standard for resumes look like. There's so many of them online
Mm-hmm.
and different templates. So definitely make sure that you have that when you arrive. Networking is key to finding the job. Talk to people. Sometimes it's not very easy when you're just new into a place and you're trying to make friends and connect and all of that. But definitely start doing that in your from the little circles that you're building. Start asking questions. You have to ask a lot of questions
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get the right answers and settle in properly. Don't keep things to yourself. Don't try to figure it out by
Yes.
yourself. Ask a lot of
Mm-hmm.
questions. People around you, ask and ask and ask questions to help you figure out and navigate through what you're really looking to do and things like that.
Yeah,
I
I
just
like
want
that you
to
said that resume. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go
No,
ahead.
I like that you said that tailor your resume to the Canadian style. And also, a very important thing is, so from where I come from, we have a lot of people go to school. Like they have like their undergrad, they have their masters, they have certificates, right? Which is obviously good. But make sure that when you're applying for jobs, what is relevant to the job you're applying for? Don't put things that are not relevant to the job. So if all the certificates you have are in one thing and you're applying, let's say in engineering, and you're applying for HR, I'm just giving an example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not going to fly with the employer, right? You're not going to get called for that. So make sure that when you're applying for jobs, whatever is in your resume best fits that role,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's another important thing I just wanted to bring out before you go
Yeah,
on.
very
Yeah.
that's very important. Like you don't have to have all your educational credentials, the certificates, on one resume, take the time to tailor your resume to the job that you're applying for. And because sometimes people try to put a lot and then a lot of things get missed. But
Mm-hmm.
ensure that you're just tailoring it to what is really important so that the employers can pick that up. Doyin mentioned LinkedIn. LinkedIn is fantastic. Even for myself as an employer, I love going to LinkedIn to find employees as well because it's so nice and easy. You can find you can see, employers can see your profile there. They can see who you're connected to. They can see what you care about. So
Mm-hmm.
do not underestimate the power of LinkedIn. Lots of people have been able to secure jobs right on there, and
Mm-hmm.
also being able to connect with employers. So when you're arriving, ensure your LinkedIn profile is tip top, highlights your key areas of expertise and experience and things like that, because it's really going to help you a lot with your transition.
And there's a labor shortage right now.
Yes.
Oh, there's a labor shortage right now. I'm sure it's all over the world, but in Canada, so people are looking for employees. They're looking for people to take those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so don't be afraid to put yourself out there, put your resume out there, like because like if your resume is what they're looking for, you will be selected because they're looking for people.
Yeah. And I would just add there too on this job front, while there's a lot of jobs out there and employers are looking for lots of people, and even international students now can work full time until December of 2023. So if you're an international student coming, you do have something under your belt there that you could leverage to get lots of hours of work in. The key thing is you would probably get called for those interviews, but when you go there, you need to deliver. It
Mm-hmm.
is competition. It
Mm-hmm.
is it's not easy. Canadian employers have really high standards and expectations. So when you get into those interviews, you have to deliver at those interviews. So practice, prep for it, get coaching sessions if you need it. It's not just enough to say, wow, I just arrived and I got called for 3 interviews. I've seen
Yeah.
people who came in and they've gotten called for 6, 7 interviews and they didn't get any job.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they at some point you feel like they're calling me, I must be great. But
Mm-hmm.
if you get in
Mm-hmm.
there and you actually don't deliver to the greatness that they saw on the resume, then there will be a gap and there will be a problem, right? So it's
Yes.
very important to ensure that you prepare, you don't take any opportunity for granted, because the sooner you can get something, the better it is for you and the easier it would help you with your settlement and all of that.
Yeah, I like that. Yes.
Perfect. So thank you so much for adding that. So the next thing here, I can see lots of questions coming in. Please drop your questions, leave your questions. We're going to be taking questions very soon here in the next couple of minutes. And some of them, as we're talking about, your questions may get answered, but we'll just leave your questions there. I'll be taking questions. When you find a job and all of that, one other very important thing that people need to know about settlement here is healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
When you come, you probably have to find healthcare provider for yourself, for your family, and all of that. Could you talk about finding healthcare like how does the healthcare system work? A little bit of it. It's different in
Mm-hmm.
different provinces, but generally, what can people expect about finding healthcare providers when they arrive in Canada?
Yeah, so like in Canada, it's very different from other places, right? You can't just walk into a hospital and say like you're sick, except you're like really, really like you're dying,
That's emergency.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So here in Canada, like you have to first go to like your doctor. So the clinic that your doctor is at, right? Before if it's an emergency, they now let you know that okay, go do this test. You need to do this lab work and everything. But finding a doctor is very important in Canada. And the way you
Mhm,
can find doctors in Canada is by going to your government of whatever province health website,
mhm,
and first of all, registering for your health card. Without your health card and that health card number, there's really nothing they can do. They'll they'll charge you. They'll charge you because healthcare in Canada is free, right?
mhm.
And I think in some provinces there's a waiting period, and some provinces there's no. I know in Ontario is a three months waiting
What's
period.
it called?
So
Yeah.
make sure before you're coming, you have insurance for 3 months if you're going to those provinces. But typically healthcare is free in Canada, and you need a health card to be able to take to your doctor to get registered at their clinic. And once you have that once you're registered, then you're good to go. But first things first, when you get everything else done, go to that website, your provincial health website
Health
of the
website.
province, and get registered for that health card.
Yeah.
And then the next thing, look for a doctor. And it's one thing to go on the website, is another thing to just walk into it's another thing to just walk into any clinic. you need to look for doctors accepting patients.
Yeah.
That's another thing, right? Because
Hmm.
yes, you have all these clinics, but are they accepting patients? Because there are some doctors that don't accept patients at the moment. So, for example, in Saskatchewan, we have e-health. For example, so go on there in Ontario, go to Health Ontario. Like there are different
Provinces have their different
provinces
websites.
have different health websites. So yeah, go on there, register for your health card, search for doctors in your province, and look for the ones that are accepting patients. And another very important thing is, while you're looking for doctors accepting patients, also pull up what is called Rate My MD, because that's another very important thing. Yes, all the doctors are accepting patients, but do they have what it takes? Like, are they good,
Yeah.
right? So Rate My MD will tell you like the ratings of those doctors. Read it. It's one thing for them to rate it, but read what people are saying as well, and then from there decide if that's the doctor you want to go with and register with or not. So that's how it works in Canada. You can't just walk into a hospital and say, "Hey, I'm sick." No, it doesn't work. Get get registered for your health card. Go on that website, look for doctors accepting patients, and look for doctors. When you look for doctors accepting patients, make sure you're looking at the ratings, the reviews that people have said about that doctor.
Perfect. No, that's so important, because I think a lot of people get shocked when they come into Canada and they realize that you don't just walk to the hospital. You don't just
Mm-mm.
go to the general hospital. I can count the number of times I've been to the general hospital when I had my child, the second one, and then when I had a family member who was ill. Like, you don't go to the hospital, you go to the clinics. And
Mm-hmm.
also, in addition to that, when you go to the clinics, you're seeing family doctors. So
Yes.
if you're someone
Yes.
who needs special care, like you need to see a gynecologist, you need to see a pediatrician, you need to see any of these other specialists,
Mm-hmm.
psychiatrists, or whatever. You actually have to go through the referral of a doctor. Finding a family doctor is very, very important for you
Yes.
to find and have one. Even if you have lab works
Mm-hmm.
and things like that you need to do, you still need to get a requisition coming from a doctor before you could
Yes.
go do that. So when you come in and you get certain things, like you have your address, your phone number, you're registered in school, or you found an employer, anything that, because healthcare in Canada is provincial. So the
Mm-hmm.
province would have to vet to make sure that you are a resident of that province before they issue a health card to you. So you'd
Mm-hmm.
have to have utility bills in your name. You'd have to have your proof, your immigration documents for you
Yep.
being there. If you have employment, you have to show that, register in school. All these documents are the things that you would use to get your health card. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very important to do those first things that we talked about first, because it really feeds into you being able to actually apply for your health card. So then you
Mm-hmm.
can start finding healthcare providers and things like that to work with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, perfect. Lots of questions coming in. We're almost done here. Now, I think with that, what I'll do is I'll just look at some of the questions here, Joey. We'll start taking some questions, and then we'll start going into wrapping up here. Someone
Okay.
said, please, can you, I'm just going to put this on the screen here. So please, can you talk about coming into Canada through study roads? I think this is a very vague question. I don't think
Yeah.
about arriving in Canada and settling as a student. If you're arriving in Canada and settling as a student, it's the same process that we've already talked about. If you're asking more about how can I come to Canada as a student, then that's a totally different conversation. I
Mm-hmm.
do actually have lots of videos on our YouTube channel that talks about that, and you might be able to get your answers there. Um, so I'm just going to go to the next question. Um, Hello, Florence and Doyin. Thank you for this. I'll be coming to Prince Albert as a student with my wife, looking at February because school resumes in March.
Okay.
I think the second set of the question is, when is the best time to get accommodation? As I've read, they ask at the point of entry where you intend to stay. Very, very good question, Ibadan Knock. Very
Yeah.
good question. Doi, could you respond to this? What do people typically have to do at this point?
Yeah. So if you don't have that long-term accommodation, obviously Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that have used like the Airbnb's address as the address at the
As
port
a
of entry, right?
Yeah.
You can also use hotel. You can
Even
also use,
hotel.
yeah, even the
Yes.
hotel that you're staying, you can use that. So if you don't have that long-term accommodation yet, use your short-term accommodation address, Airbnb, hotels. You can definitely use that at the port of entry.
Perfect. That's good. That's a good answer. Yeah. So you don't have to on your port of entry information use whatever address where you're going to be sleeping
Mm-hmm.
that night. That's as good as you know if that's all you have.
Exactly.
Perfect. Rena has a question here. Um, please, what would be a nice neighborhood with high school to live in Saskatoon as a new immigrant with teens?
Oh, what's a good neighborhood?
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one. Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I do have a video. I do have like information on that on Tattoo Easy. So you go to my Instagram page. I talk about neighborhoods. So if you're not following me, you can follow me on Instagram. Just Tattoo Easy SK, and I
Mhm.
compare neighborhoods. I tell you the top 10 neighborhoods in Saskatoon and also in Regina. So you can go on my website on my Instagram page to look at that.
Okay. And maybe you could pin that on your Instagram profile when we're done so
Okay.
that it makes it
Yes.
easy for her to find it. Neighborhoods are very, it's not,
Yeah, neighborhoods
there
are,
are lots
yeah.
of great neighborhoods, but the key thing, remember what we said when it also depends on the schooling your children would go to. There's a lot of factors that
Mm-hmm.
that has to you have to take into consideration when you're actually determining those neighborhoods and things like that. And sometimes Doyi does those one-on-one consultation where she can actually sit down with you, and then based on what is really priority with you, she'll be able to kind of give you some options to choose from. Just
Yeah.
because there's a lot is really hard to pick one because it might not be the
Yeah.
one that suits all of your needs per se.
Mhm.
Okay. After my youth service in 20, let me see. Okay, let me put this question here. After my youth service, I only worked for 1 year as a secretary before I got married. So I have basically been at home because of my kids without work. Will it be easy for me to find a job?
Oh yeah, it is. And funny enough, Canadians they don't they are okay with that. Like there are so many people that you see on their resume that they will write it even in their cover letter that they were absent because they were
Taking
taking
care
care of
of
the
the
kids.
kids. Yeah.
So make sure you're putting that in your resume so that they know that at least you were doing something, right? It's not
Yeah,
just you were just
yeah.
yeah, you are not just partying and everything. Put it in there. You'll find it. You'll find a job. Just put on your resume. Put the experience that you have, and make sure in that cover letter you're putting that you took so time off because you were taking care of your kids.
Yeah. And it's very important because when employers find gaps on your resume, they're
Hmm.
always concerned. They're like, what was this person doing? So help them answer those questions, be it on
Yeah.
your resume or on the cover letter that you'll be using in your application. Help them answer those questions and let them know exactly what you were doing.
What were you
Taking care of
doing?
children is like, it's high level work. You're coming with lots of skill sets, excellent communication skills because you got to communicate with those kids,
Right.
organizational skills. You have a lot that you could leverage of what you've been doing in your time off. And
Exactly.
sometimes too, there's short courses and things that you could take just to brush up again as you try to
Hmm.
re-enter the workforce. That doesn't necessarily involve like a full-blown school and things like that, but lots of
Yeah.
certifications that you can put in place.
LinkedIn Learning as well. LinkedIn
Yes,
Learning
LinkedIn
is a good one.
Learning. Thank you.
Hmm.
LinkedIn Learning. There's a lot of free things there that you could do. And as you're completing those learnings and those certification, add them to your resume as things that you've done recently. And sometimes
Hmm.
when employers see that, they see someone who is eager to learn, who is eager to restart their career and things like that. So don't let taking care of those babies be your drawback. You do have a lot
Yeah.
to offer. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Rosie Baby has a question here. She said, can I change province and school when I arrive in Canada? I'll answer this question
Yeah.
because this is immigration related. Yes, you can change province and school when you have arrived in Canada. Don't try to do it before you arrive in Canada. If your study permit has been approved and you want to change school before you come into Canada, you will be returned at the border. You can't change before you enter. You have to enter the country with the admission that you got. And if for whatever reason you change school and province, then you want to do it when you're in here. And when you do that, ensure that you update IRCC. This is because all the schools in Canada have to report to IRCC every semester on the list of all of the international students that are registered in their school. And this is what a lot of students don't know. So you have to ensure that IRCC knows exactly where you are in country at any point in time. So that's what the extra that I would add there, but you could absolutely change your school. Okay. Um, Perfect. So we have there's this question here for Ugochi. Thank you. Thanks for the session. Please, how can you get your children involved in extracurricular activities as a newcomer? What
That's
options do
perfect.
we have? That's a good question.
I
Over to
like
you,
that
Chloe.
question. I like that question, Ugochi.
Yeah.
So yeah, so most provinces they encourage kids to be registered in extracurricular activities. Even the province that you're in, like I don't know, like for example, the city of Regina, for example. I'm just using Regina because that's where I'm
That's
based.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the city of Regina. If you go on their website, I'm sure if you go on the city of Toronto, if you go city of province of Alberta, everywhere has is the same thing
Activities.
everywhere. If you go on there, you'll see like a list of extracurricular activities that they have for your kids there, from babies from 6 months to I think about,
Yes.
in fact, adults,
Yeah.
even
There's
adults.
something for
So they have
adults.
a
Yeah.
list of activities that your kids can register for. So go on those websites, depending on the province you're going to be settled in, and
Mm-hmm.
look for, depending on what your kids are interested in, and you'll find, but they have basketball, badminton, swimming,
Soccer.
softball, soccer. There's so many that you can register your kids to. The good thing with the province is that it's kind of subsidized,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not paying that huge amount of money if you go to a private company, because there
Mm-hmm.
are private companies that also offer those extracurricular activities as well.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. That's really important. And one thing that I would add, as a mom who struggles to register her children in extracurricular activities,
Oh,
they fill up very quick.
yes,
So you want
yes,
to sign up for their newsletters, you want to sign up for their notifications when those activities are going to be opening up, so then you don't miss it. You might miss the first couple because the rush is
hmm,
crazy for those top activities, but whatever the case, know your city website and your provincial websites for those activities and register for them. There are some private ones that do exist as well, like swimming and all. They might be a little bit more pricey, but the competition sometimes is not as much as those
yeah,
city run ones, because those ones are a lot more affordable. So
yeah,
definitely think about that. Prep yourself and know exactly what you want to get your kids into.
yeah.
There's a
Put
lot
reminders on your phone.
Yes, good reminders. There's a lot that you can actually do. Now, as we're talking about that, the next thing that I want us to really touch on, because our time is almost up here, is it's around, like, when you come, it's not easy coming to a new country, and most of the times people don't have any friends or family when they
Mm,
are coming. How do they build community when they arrive? And how do they integrate into the Canadian system? Aside from finding a house, all these things, these are stuff that to get you settled and comfortable. But the fun of being in a place is making it home. What's that process,
mhm.
and what can people do?
I like that you asked that question. So when I came in 2011, 2010, I was in Canada for a whole year. Yes, I had my brother here. I had no friends for 1 year. It was so depressing because, yes, like you said, you have the job, you have this, you have that, but you don't have anybody to really talk to, and it's also hard to talk to your friends or family back home because of time difference as well. Well, where I was coming from, so the way I looked up at the way I look at it, when you're looking for a community, sports, like the last question, you're talking about extracurricular activities. Look for those sports team or associations or social clubs in your province, right? That's a good way to
Build
get that,
community.
to build a community. Another place, your places of worship, depending on if you're a Christian and Muslim or anything. Places of worship is another good place to find that community you're looking for. Your neighborhood, take advantage of your neighborhood,
Yes.
because there are so many immigrants in Canada right now, and like, I know that I don't I'm sure it's the same everywhere, but there's so many, depending on when you're living. Like, I know, like, there's like in Nigeria, there's so many Nigerians in like a community, for example, in the neighborhood. So,
Mm-hmm.
don't be shy, knock on doors, talk to people. So that your neighborhood is very important. Also, when kids go to the playground, make friends. Don't be shy. Talk to those parents, and also your child's school. Volunteer in activities for your child. They want somebody to bring cookies. Volunteer. They want somebody, looking for somebody to maybe they're having like an event. Make sure you volunteer, and then also volunteering even at work or different places. you go and go on websites and look for all these things like how to volunteer and things like that. So like I know community is very important because it can get lonely here. So look at, like I said, places of worship, volunteering, your kids' school, your neighborhood, sports teams, associations, social clubs, and also like Facebook is also a very good place as well. You can actually search for example, I'm just going to use myself. Like I search for like Nigerian community in Saskatchewan, or even Regina, and I will
Find a
find
lot.
like you can find so many of them, right?
Yeah.
Also, they have WhatsApp groups as well that you can join. Like I always make fun because we have like food groups and this group and that group,
Yeah.
but that's how you form community. That's how you have those people that become friends, right?
With
So
you. Yeah.
yes, look at all those all those places I just mentioned, because that's how you can definitely build your community and find people that have the same interests, same likes as you, and go from there. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. No, that's really good. And I think I would add there, like it's one thing to find like community. Sometimes when we're trying to find community, we really easily gravitate to people that look and sound like us. Remember, you're in Canada. When you're finding those communities of people that look and sound like you, start building and nurturing those relationships with Canadians as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is one thing that if I could go back and do it all over again, when I came to Canada 17 years ago and I was in university, I would have gone back and made so much more friends with Canadians because it would have helped me in integrating into the workplace, in
Mm-hmm.
growing my career in so many ways. I remember that it was always difficult to take, like, they would have, like, if you're working, most of the times in offices, they're like big lunch room where everybody goes for lunch and sit and chat. I remember not ever going there for maybe once or twice. My colleagues were so great, but I was just shy. So, as much as you can, try to come out of yourself, even if you say nothing, at least sit there and listen to the
Mm-hmm.
conversation. You
Mm-hmm.
will be learning a lot about what it means to be Canadian, what it means to live here, what matters to people. And before you know it, you're also part of those conversations as well. And when you go into those communities, especially the ones that are not like from your country of origin and things like that, what you want to do is use that opportunity to educate as well. Because I
Mm-hmm.
remember so many times I talked about, I'm Nigerian. I had to explain how things work in Nigeria. Why, for example, I change my hair all the time. And it was like, how do you do it? I'm like, no, like I used to do my hair every Sunday when I was growing up. Like it was a thing of, you got to look good Monday morning, my
Yep.
time to do my hair. So I'm not used to having one hairstyle for so they get to
Mm-hmm.
understand and know. And there's so much more that they can learn from you,
Mm-hmm.
you can learn from them as well. And in that
Yeah.
process, it makes you more of a well-rounded person.
Yes.
Join the event, partner with your
Yeah.
school, your children's
Mm.
school's activity. Even as an international student on campus, join those associations,
Yep.
volunteer, do
Yep.
things on campus. It would
Mm-hmm.
help you not just for the experience of building community, but for
Mm-hmm.
building your resume as well and your confidence
Exactly.
when it's time for you to apply for these jobs and do things in the workplace and grow yourself in Canada. So it
Yeah.
is so important. So Doi, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Facebook, if you don't know where to start, just go on Facebook,
Facebook.
search,
Facebook.
search whatever community you want to search. I'm sure you'll find them coming up
Yeah.
and then
Even
ask to join.
yeah. Even at work, like you said, I like that you brought that up. At work, they have social clubs. Join those
Yes.
social clubs. Like it doesn't matter if there's nobody that looks like you. Join the social club, but like contribute. They like when they have fresh ideas and things like that. So be the
Mhm.
first person to raise your hand and
Yes.
join those social clubs. So it's very important. They want to go for coffee, even if you don't drink coffee, go drink tea or water. It doesn't matter. Like seem interested, right? Seem
Yes.
interested. Go for those soccer games they have. Those Friday nights. It doesn't have to be. And that's another thing. Because we say go out with them, that doesn't mean that you have to go out every Friday, right?
Yeah. No.
You don't have to go there because it can get tiring. I know.
Mhm.
So but once in a while, like they want to go out for drinks, for example, if you drink or whatever, or dinner, go out. They have different soccer, they have different sports team as well at offices. Go out. Like there's no harm. There's no harm in going for one or two.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really it's so important, and it would just enrich your experience. It will
Yeah.
enrich your experience. And most of the times when I see people who have come in and have settled so well, that's it. It's
Hmm.
just building that community here, that you've come again and just enjoying. Canadians are great people, very nice people. You'll find that Canadians are really, really nice people, lots of them, that are always there to help. So don't give up on yourself. It's not an easy move to make this life-changing change, but hopefully from this conversation you have gotten a few tips and things that can hopefully make things a little bit easy for you before you come. There's this question here for you, Doyin. I want you to take this question because this is an important one and other people might benefit from it. Thank you for the session. Thank you for joining. I will be
Thank
coming
you.
to Canada in March with my kids. Can they start school immediately?
So, like I said, they can start. So they can start within the
The
year. It
school
doesn't matter
year?
as long as there's no school break. But yes, they can start immediately as long as they are registered. Like I said, and they're already in school. They've been placed into a school in like your area. But they can start as long as it's not during the holiday period. Yeah.
During the holiday period. Okay.
Enrollment is all year round.
Okay. That's really good
Yeah,
to know. I didn't know that.
for immigrants. Yeah.
For immigrants, enrollment is all year round. That's good. So
Yeah.
then you don't have to worry that your kids it's mid-year and then they can't get
No.
in. And sometimes those last 2 weeks of getting in before the school goes on break is actually
Mhm.
fantastic because it kind of helps them to get used to it and then come back and then you can get used to the process and then start a
Yeah.
new school session and all of that. So that's good.
Yes.
I
Yes.
didn't know that you can start there as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Let's
Yeah.
see
Thank
what
you.
more some more questions that we can take here. I think there was a question: what age can a child apply for study permit? Um, Study permit, usually if a child is going to be 5 by the time they come to Canada, like let's say you're coming with your child and they're going to be 5 by the time they arrive, they should be applying for an open study permit. If they're applying with the parent who is applying for either a work permit or a study permit, they don't necessarily need to have an admission into a program. It can be an open study permit to Canada and all of that. So that's basically what they would need to do and apply. So they can definitely apply. Um, okay, let's see if there's one more question here. Someone said, okay, this one, Doing, would like to ask about proof of funds. Can you give suggestion of how much money, I'll just say how much money can be changed when moving to Canada, especially if you're moving from Nigeria?
Um, change can be
Like how, I
changed.
think she's
Oh,
want to say how
before
much
you come.
to bring. Yeah.
Okay, so the Canadian border will not allow you to bring more than 10,000 Canadian dollars when you're coming to Canada. So anything above 10,000, you have to. I think you have
Declare.
to declare. You have to declare,
Mm-hmm.
and so make sure. Yeah, just make sure you're declaring if it's over 10,000. But you're allowed to bring $10,000 once when you're relocating to Canada.
Yeah, $10,000. Anything below 10,000, up to $10,000, you don't have to declare. But
Declare.
any funds that you have on you that is over $10,000,
Mm-hmm.
please clear it at the border. If not, they will confiscate it. So you don't
They
want to
will.
lose your money.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to carry such large sums of money with you on a very long journey, you can bring what you can bring, and then when you arrive, you can start the process of transferring that from your
Transferring.
home country to Canada as well. So
Yeah.
there's also that option that you can explore as well. If you're coming as an international student, there's actually a bank that would allow you open a bank account prior to your arrival in Canada. It's called Simply, so you would be able to apply for you might be able to open a bank account even before you come, and then you could do your transfers that way. So there are different banks
Mm.
that have different options, so you could check those out and see what options are available to you. Okay.
Oh, is that Simply Financial? Is it
Yeah,
that one?
Simply Financial.
Ah,
Yeah,
I didn't know
Simply
that. Okay, good to
Financial. Yeah,
know.
yeah, Simply Financial. Yeah, and like there's a process to it, but you could transfer like dollars from home into that account before you come, so it
Oh,
saves you the hassle of actually having to do it all on your own. Yeah.
that's, that's perfect.
Okay, so we're almost at the end. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been
Yeah,
an
thank
hour
you.
of excellent information here from Doyin. Thank you so much, Doyin, for taking your time to share with us today. Now, if someone is listening here and would love to needs assistance with settling, what type of services do you offer, and what can you do for people basically?
Yeah, so we offer a variety of services. If you go to our website, www.settleeasy
I'll share the link.
ca, you will see like we have different packages. We have packages that basically me the way I have it there is like from your very basic settlement needs to like to add-ons that you can have there. So basically, we have everything from airport pickup to assistance with accommodation to assistance with phone line, initial grocery shopping, assistance with your SIN, with your health card. We do it all basically. But then you can also we also have assessment plans that can be tailored to your needs, and that's where our consultations comes in. So you want to talk to us about you don't see anything that is on our list on our package, but you want something more tailored to your needs, please you can go on our website and book a consultation on our website.
Perfect. Perfect. That's very good. So you have that. Sometimes all you really need is a little bit of guidance and
Hmm.
direction in where to go, and then you know what, then you could figure the rest out yourself. Be it in Saskatchewan or across Canada, there are lots of agencies that you can work with. Find those
Hmm.
reputable agencies and work with them, and they would be able to help you with your
Settlement.
settlement. But most important, do a lot of research. If anything sounds too good to be true, it's
Then it's
probably too
yeah,
good to be true. Certain things like finding a job, getting certain things like
accommodation.
finding accommodation and all of that. Be very careful. If you did not interview with that for that job with a legit company and all of that, you can't verify them online. You did not get that job, please.
Hmm.
We've heard so many of these stories, and I hope that we don't continue to hear it. But
Yeah.
you really have to protect yourself in your journey of coming to Canada and arriving. And most importantly, please ask questions. Please ask questions. Doyin, there's a question here for you. Please, Doyin, do you also offer consultancy to people in other provinces?
Yes, I do because I partner. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Oh,
you. Yeah,
sorry, something happened.
yeah.
Yeah, yes, I do because I do partner with other private settlement companies, in other provinces as well, like Ontario, Alberta. So yes, I do.
Yeah. So if you don't know where to start, you can start with her, and then she can connect and link you with someone that would pick you up and offer the services that you're looking for to help you settle
Yeah.
in those provinces as well. All right. Dwayne, your final words.
Well, thank you obviously for having me, Florence. This was a very great session. Like I said again, like settlement is very, very, it's very, it can be very difficult when you're, uprooting yourself from where you are and moving to a totally brand new place. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I will say with my last words, make sure you're researching. I think Florence who said that. Make sure you're researching before you come. And if you cannot do it on your own, look for a settlement agency like myself in that province and go with them. And no, I just wish everybody the best. Everybody that is moving to Canada, wishing you all the best, and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joey. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
everyone, for joining. Again, if you're listening and you have more of questions like, I've not even gotten my visa. How could I even get a visa? How could I come to Canada? We're here for you at InfoPlace Canada as usual. You could book a consultation with one of my consultants. We're more than happy to sit with you, discuss, put a plan together on what your journey to Canada should look like, on what pathways and options that you can explore. If you're thinking about coming as a student, there's a consultation, there's a course on study permits. There's a lot of resources. We do have a lot as well, even on our YouTube channel that you can take a look at. Our blogs, there's lots of resources everywhere that you can read. Sometimes it could be overwhelming, and that's kind of where that one-on-one consultation comes in. So
Mhm.
don't feel like you're alone in this journey. You'll probably move a lot faster if you get some help and direction, and we're always here to do that for you. So thank
Yes.
you so much for joining today. And if you know anyone that would need this session, share this with them. It's going to be back live on Facebook. It's going to be shared Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. So please share with anyone who is settling and arriving at the end of this year, beginning of next year. And do have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year in advance. Thank you.